Hi, Kylie from the Art House Factory here, and I've been doing some research into what is the difference between green and sustainable buildings, and there is a difference, and it's quite often the terms are used interchangeably, and I've posted an article on here that explains the differences quite nicely just before I've gone live on this, so you can have a full read of the article. But what it comes down to is sustainable buildings, sustainable architecture is about creating a harmonious relationship between the environment, the people, the communities, and all of that sort of stuff moving forward. So sustainability is about moving forward. Green buildings are about reducing our impact on the planet, reducing our footprints, and reducing the impact on human health. Now, I know that may sound like the same thing, but there's some differences. And one of the easiest ways to explain that is the use of timber in buildings. Now, timber is considered a green product because it's renewable. And so therefore, if you use timber in your house, timber frame as opposed to a metal frame, you know, timber benches, those sorts of things, then it's considered a green product. But if that timber is not sustainably sourced and has a negative impact on the environment when it's sourced, it's not a sustainable product. So that's the easiest way to understand the difference between a green product and a sustainable product. Now, for that timber to be sustainable, it needs to either be reclaimed timber, so recycled timber, or it needs to be forestry approved, which is FSC approved. And what that means is where it's sourced is under sustainable operations. So plants are being replaced, those sorts of things. So if your timber is recycled or sourced through sustainable methods, it is both green and sustainable. If you're just getting timber and it's not sustainably sourced, it is green, but it's not sustainable. So what you'll see is a lot of cross use of the words, as I said. So you'll see in advertising for all sorts of buildings that they're sustainable buildings. But unless a building has a zero net energy attached to it, that is, it's not drawing on the environment at all, and it has zero emissions, it's not giving out to the environment, that's a sustainable building. So the vast majority of houses being built in Australia right now are technically, according to my research, technically not sustainable. They're green, but they're not sustainable. And this is where things are happening now. The conversation, as it says in this article, about buildings being green, it's becoming less and less of a conversation, because while companies may advertise, we're green, or they may use the word sustainable because we put insulation in our houses, insulation is actually required by, different levels of insulation are now required by building codes. So for someone to be advertising, we put insulation in our houses, they're actually just telling you facts about what need to happen. And what it comes down to is what sort of insulation, how is it put into the building? Is it sourced from recycled or sustainable goods? Is it installed properly? If you just shove it in the wall cavity and it all compacts and stuff like that, if you're using like bats, it's actually not going to work. You need it to be nice and filled out. You need every gap filled, all of those sorts of things. So while a building might be green, how green it is also depends on how well it's built. So that goes house to house. And whether or not it's sustainable, is having that insulation going to create a zero impact? Depends on the insulation itself. So the green and the sustainable, very up and down. And so it's something that we all need to work towards in terms of our buildings is, yes, we do green, but we also need our green to be sustainable moving forwards. So that was just a little bit of information that I've found fascinating, because having been in the industry for 17 years, working in the industry now, these words, back when I first started studying basics in New South Wales environmental compliance, only came in after I'd actually finished studying. So I was, chuffed out of the educational facilities without any requirements of having to do this stuff for our building. And since then it's come in, and each year these requirements go up, and it's a really good thing. It's a good thing for the planet, because we are pushing towards a sustainable construction industry. And in the meantime, what we want is we want things to be green, but not only green, we want the aspects of green we want as much green as we can, but whatever we put in that's green, we also want it to be as sustainable as possible. So just a little bit of information for you. If you like this, if you felt people would enjoy, just hearing about these little differences, please share this video. Once again, I'm Kylie from the Art House Factory, and we'll talk to you soon.